What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Mets Central podcast. This is episode 63, where I'm going to be recapping the Mets versus Dodgers series as they split the two, or they take two out of the four games, splitting the series, and they will play the Colorado Rockies coming up at Coors Field. So there's a lot to get into in terms of talking about this team, what just happened, what's coming up, all that stuff, and potentially some trade deadline things that are dropping as well. So there's a lot to get into in this episode. Before we jump into everything, I ask that you please leave a like on your way in, or if you're watching on replay, subscribe if you guys are new to the channel, especially if you're Met fans, and turn on your post notifications so you know when we upload or go live here on Met Central. I am flying solo today as Matt is busy, a little bit of a conflicting schedule thing for both of us today. I was busy earlier, he's busy later. So here I am flying solo today. So I do apologize if any of you like Matt more than me, then too bad. You're gonna have to deal with me, and I'm sorry about that. But yeah, and also, by the way, if you are in the live chat, I will try to get to your comments, questions, and everything as much as possible. I'm not ignoring your comments. I'm just trying to get through the conversations, as there again is a lot to get into. So let's talk about this series that just occurred, because I feel I have mixed feelings after this series, because going into the series, we said on the last episode, both Matt and I agreed, where we would take a split. A split would be fine. Go in there and take care of business there by doing just that. And I picked them to lose the first two games, when the last two ended up being a every other game thing. The problem is, and this has been a theme all season long, where they'll either split or they'll win a series where it's like you felt there should have been more. You felt they should have swept the series. You felt they should have took 3 out of 4. And really, that's how I feel after the series, because they were given a golden opportunity in so many of these games, and the two games they lost, to take this game, to take the opportunity and run. Granted, you could say the same with the Dodgers in the first game. The second, or the third game rather, the Mets just outright blew them out of the water there. But it really should have been a series that you at least take 3 out of 4 of when you look at this. Granted, I'll say this, that at the end of the day, I'm encouraged seeing them go toe to toe against the Dodgers. I'm encouraged seeing them look like they're in the same class a little bit in terms of when the matchup happens. But there's still so much work to be done with this team, where they showed promise in the first 2 to 3 games with runners in scoring position and just offensively. You felt maybe they could have been a bit better in those first 3 games, but at least they showed me a little bit of promise. And then naturally, whenever I'm ready to say, you know what, at least there's signs of improvement, here comes game 4, where they look like absolute garbage with runners in scoring position in the last game. And then the bullpen blips in this series, man, they had a lot more of them, and this bullpen looked a lot more human. But that's something that's going to come with playing this Dodgers squad. And that's why David Stearns, come the trade deadline, is going to have to address his bullpen and going to have to get a reliever or two at the minimum. And I know that they do have reinforcements on the way, with Nunez potentially coming back, and then some starters are going to come back in Montas, which again doesn't look great right now, but we'll see how he is in the majors when he comes back up, because Paul Blackburn looked brutal in rehab as well at points. And then you still have Sean Manaea coming back. So there is an opportunity there for guys to move to the bullpen. But I want to see some higher leverage arms, because Reed Garrett this series did not show me signs of encouragement in this one. And for a guy that looked like, oh, he fully went back into the circle of trust, a lot of scares in this series. Brazoban, I'm not too mad about the way that he performed, because I think a lot of it has to do with fatigue. And I don't get why Carlos Mendoza was trotting him out there, especially in that second game. But there's a lot of things that were worrisome throughout this series, but a lot of things that were also positive, because you still got some good production for the most part from the pitching. But the bottom line is, you are not facing the Dodgers' best pitchers that you might face in October, and this offense needs to show a little bit more than they did in this series. You faced Dustin May in game 1. Clayton Kershaw and it's 2025. You faced Tony Gonsolin. You faced Landon Knack. Those guys you should be beating up on. And they respectfully did with Landon Knack a little bit, but you need to beat up on these guys a little bit more because this is not the Dodgers' best that you are going to see in October because they are going to give you Yamamoto in a playoff series. You're going to see Blake Snell in a playoff series. You are going to see Tyler Glasnow in a playoff series. So, as much as there were signs of improvement, I'm still sitting here like, you didn't get the Dodgers' best, and that's where the trade deadline is going to come in, where the Mets are going to have to make some big time moves. It's just very frustrating because I felt like certain guys individually had some better series. Like I thought Starling Marte had one of his better series of the entire season. I thought that you got some good production from Juan Soto looked a little more comfortable, at least at the plate in this series. You still want to see the full on production, but at least he looked a little bit more comfortable throughout this series. Pete Alonso just being on a mission this series with the amount of home runs he was hitting. And unfortunately, you got a couple blips, and the bottom of the lineup just simply did not give enough. So that's again where the deadline's going to come and play in that regard because these two teams, I mean, both of them will be completely different come October. So as much as I'm saying the Dodgers are going to give their best, the Mets are definitely going to make the improvements, and they have to come October if they want to, really challenge this Dodgers team. And I know that they won the season series, but there are certain factors where you're not going to get off the hook of this in October to where I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of a punch, a little bit more of a fire-powered offense, if you will. But with that said, let's get into the chat, see what you guys are saying before I recap the series game by game, talk about everything. Pablo saying bittersweet could have been an easy 3-1 series. Pretty much how I feel, yeah, where, I'll take the split, but I want to see, like, I really would have liked to have seen them just fully punch this team. Runners at scoring position was a success besides the last game. It was, like I said, to open the show, it was a little bit better throughout the series. I still want to see a little bit more, especially because, again, you're not facing the Dodgers' best pitchers that you're going to see in October. But for the most part, I mean, yeah, at least there was some sort of signs of improvement. And now, which we'll talk about in the preview, when you're going into Coors Field, you really, really got to show those improvements there. Could have easily swept the entire season series, 100% right, because that other game at Citi Field, I wanted a split. This is from Maxwell. I want a split. So I would be happy with a split. Mets somehow figured out a way to make me super unhappy with a split. You and I both, Maxwell. That's kind of where I am, where it's just like, and that's what's been all season, where going into series, we say, all right, do this, take 2 out of 3, split. And it's like, they leave you feeling like they could have got a sweep or 3 out of 4 or whatever it might be. I feel like the high leverage guys are a little overused right now. That is also definitely correlating to all this. The bullpen's definitely taxed right now. 100% taxed. And they don't got an off day till Monday. Hopefully, now that you're facing the Rockies, the bullpen could get a little bit more leeway, a little more rest, if you will. But, with this offense, you never know. You really never know. This next 9 games, honestly, I would say over these next 9, you got to go like 7-2 against the Rockies and the Nationals and the Rays. At most, lose 1 game. No, I can't even say that. You got to sweep the Rockies. You got to win that series against the Nationals, and you got to at least win that series against the Rays. So hopefully, you demolish these teams and you could save the bullpen a little bit. This was a classic Mets series, unfortunately. Basically, Pablo, yes. Jose Castillo showed me something the other night. Still going to miss Minter, though. Yeah, I'm kind of feeling mixed about him because there were a couple of shaky moments throughout his outings in the Dodgers series, which again, we'll talk more about that. But at the same time, I mean, yeah, he's giving you similar. I think he's giving you what Danny Young would be giving you right now, maybe a little bit better, if anything. So it's hard to get mad. But when he's the primary guy, that's where it's kind of like, that's where it's a concern. But that's where at least Brooks Raley coming back will hopefully help. But I still think they need to get another dominant lefty arm just because I don't want to put that pressure on Brooks Raley coming back from Tommy John surgery. Unk still got it for right now. Yes. Nimmo plate approach has changed for the better. Looks like old Nimmo. Yes, he definitely has looked better, which let's talk about the games that happened throughout the series though, just because like I've been saying, there is a lot to unpack here. So game number one, you had Paul Blackburn versus Dustin May. In the top of the first inning, Francisco Lindor would lead the game off with a solo shot. The top of the fourth inning, Juan Soto would hit a double. Pete Alonso gets hit by a pitch. Jared Young hits into a force out. Beatty strikes out as the Mets fail to score there in that inning, despite getting some leadoff, uh, or despite getting some runners on. Top of the fifth inning, McNeil and Alvarez single back to back. Nimmo doubles, which made it a 2-0 game. In the bottom of the sixth inning, Brosman comes in, looked very shaky. Freeman singles, Muncy and Conforto walk back to back. He strikes out Edman, though, to get out of it. We go to the bottom of the seventh, where Kranick allows a solo shot to Shohei Ohtani. Kranick hasn't looked as sharp lately either. He ended up getting sent down as kind of a paper transaction. I'm not sure if he was called back up. To be honest with you, I have not really looked at that stuff, especially since Waddell ended up getting some work. So if it hasn't been announced, probably will be soon that they will be calling up Max Kranick again, or maybe they're giving him a little more rest. Who knows? But that's besides the point. In the bottom of the ninth, Diaz comes in and unfortunately was not sharp at all as he allows a single to Edman. He ends up stealing a bag, Kim with a single, and then Otani with a sac fly to tie it at 2. The top of the 10th inning, Alvarez with a double to make it 3-2. Lindor gets a single, which made it 4-2, putting the pressure on the Dodgers. And Freeman ends up walking Pages with a single to make it 4-3. Muncy strikes out. Budo has to come into the game for Castillo, and he ends up putting the last two hitters away to close this game down as the Mets take it 4-3. In game number two, one of those games where again, it sucks because they really could have won this game. But unfortunately, Tyler McGill had other plans as he got the start versus Clayton Kershaw. The Mets get off to a good start, getting a run. Marte singles, a wild pitch moves him over. Alonso with a single, which made it 1-0. But Tyler McGill, again, just not sharp from the jump and putting his team behind the 8 ball way too much early on in this game. He allows a single to Mookie Betts. Freeman with a double, which ties it at 1. Teoscar Hernandez walks. Smith grounds out, which makes it 2-1, though. And then Muncy with a 2-run shot, which ends up making it 4-1 for LA. In the third inning, Lindor with a single. Soto hits a 2-run shot, though, to make it 4-3. Again, looking more comfortable at the plate, which is encouraging. In the top of the fifth inning, Lindor walks. Marte gets on from a fielder's choice. Alonso doubles to tie the game up. Nimmo beats a grounder out, which made it 5-4. Garrett ends up not looking the sharpest at all in the bottom of eighth. He walks Otani, allows a single to Betts, but he works out of the gem, getting 2 strikeouts in said efforts there of working out of the jam. But then you have a very questionable managerial decision from Carlos Mendoza, who brings in Huascar Brazaban on back-to-back days after he threw 32 pitches, opting to go with him instead of the slightly more rested Jose Budo. Brazaban, though, ends up allowing a home run to Muncy, which tied at 5. We go to extras yet again. And in the bottom of the 10th inning, Brandon Nimmo, I don't know what he's doing out there in left field, but Budo allows a walk-off double to Freddie Freeman. Not going to get mad at Budo for that one because the Manfred man's there, and the Mets didn't do anything in the bottom of the 10th to, help out there. We go on the game number 3, though. A lot less notes as Griffin Canning versus Tony Gonsolin. Canning just had a really good outing. I mean, I have no notes for the Dodgers, really, because Canning was just cruising through the 6 innings that he went through, which we'll talk more about that one. But at the top of the first inning, Lindor gets hit by a pitch, which he broke his toe, but he stayed in the game. The captain powering through, manning up, playing through the broken toe there. I don't know how much he's going to play throughout this Rocky series, which, again, more to talk about there. But Soto grounds out, which ended up making it 1-0. Alonso with a 2-run shot, continuing his hot stretch here of hitting home runs, which made it 3-0. Brandon Nimmo singles, Soto walks, Mets failed to score. Bottom of the seventh inning, Castillo comes into the game, allows a double to Pages. Ignore the fact that I had a typo there. Allows a double to Pages, hits Conforto, but works out of the jam with 2 strikeouts. In the eighth inning, Nimmo gets hit by a pitch. Soto walks, and then Alonso, a 3-run shot, makes it 6-0 for the Mets. And then Ryan Stanek allows a home run to Andy Pages to break the shutout, to break it up there. But I'm not mad at Stanek because throw strikes in that scenario. But nonetheless, that ended up resulting in the Mets winning 6-1. And then game number 4, the Mets doing what they've been doing a lot this season, which was urinating all over themselves, unfortunately, as it would be David Peterson versus Landon Knack in the top of the second inning. Alonso with a solo shot to lead off the inning. Uh, Tyrone Taylor walks, Beatty walks, but the Mets fail to add additional runs. In the top of the third, Nimmo and Marte go back to back to make it 3-0. Alonso gets hit by a pitch. McNeil walks. Taylor with a single. Beatty with a sac fly to make it 4-0. But again, the Mets not adding to the lead enough there. As in the bottom of the third, David Peterson not giving his sharpest stuff, even though, for the rest of the outing he would. But he walks Rojas. He can't walk the 9-hitter there. Ohtani singles. Betts with a double to bring in a run. Smith singles. Teoscar Hernandez hits into a force out, but LA cuts the lead to 4-3 by the end of that. The top of the fourth, the Mets get 3 walks in a row. 3 walks in a row. And guess what happens? They don't score. They do not score. And this became a theme here with the Mets getting runners in scoring position, not scoring. In the 5th inning, you had 2 base runners. You don't drive a run in. In the 6th inning, sorry, this all didn't fit in the notes, but you get 2 singles with 1 out. And Jose Urena is putting away Jeff McNeil on a strike him out, throw him out, double play. Marte, what are you doing over there at third base? Unacceptable. But then in the top of the 8th, Marte doubles, Alonso with a single, which made it 5-3. But in the bottom of the 8th inning, Reed Garrett has other plans, unfortunately, not looking sharp yet again as he walks Mookie Betts, allows a double to Will Smith, which made it 5-4. And then Smith scores as Brett Beatty with a horrible error, double clutching the throw, overthrows it as well. And you have Francisco Alvarez just boxing Reed Garrett out at the plate instead of allowing him to apply the tag. And then another just questionable decision here from Carlos Mendoza in this inning because Freddie Freeman comes up to pinch hit and they end up intentionally walking him. And instead of bringing the lefty in and Brandon Waddell to face Michael Conforto, Reed Garrett stays out there even though he clearly did not have it. And then he allows a hard hit single on the first pitch to Michael Conforto naturally, which made it 6-5. And that would be the score that the Dodgers win by. Just sloppy in that last game, especially. The last game I'm more mad about than game number 2, even though both of them were very, very winnable, but you had some questionable managerial decisions. You had some piss poor at bats with runners in scoring position, which I'm more mad about than the managerial decisions, to be honest with you. But just leaving 13 or 14 guys on base. What was it in that last game? 13? Yeah, 13. Leaving 13 guys. Unacceptable. Unacceptable entirely. Against Jose Urena. Tanner Scott, who you were owning up until I opened my stupid mouth. Come on. Unacceptable. 2 for 10 with runners in scoring position. You had Marte and Alonso go 3 for 4, and it did not matter. Soto had 2 walks despite going 0 for 3. Didn't matter. Brandon Nimmo had a home run. Did not matter. Because the rest of the guys are not getting it done. Francisco Alvarez has not looked good at the plate at all. Hasn't looked good defensively either. I mean, just watching him trying to block balls behind the plate. he just does not look sharp at all. And that's very concerning to me. He had a couple of hits here and there, but you're still not seeing the Alvarez that we want to see. You're not seeing the guy that was promised to be a power hitter. And I know a lot of it is because of the hitting coach telling him not to hit for power, but he just looks lost up there at times and missing on fastballs, just watching them go by him, fanning on the off speed. And then in that last game as well, I know that Lindor's got a broken toe, but he played 9 innings the game before. How does Lindor not grab the stick at all to hit in that 9th inning? How do you not get Lindor up there for Acuna? I would rather my chances with Francisco Lindor on a broken toe than Luis Angel Acuna, who looks like he belongs in Syracuse right now. You just have a lot of holes in the bottom of the lineup right now, which is really concerning because Brett Beatty's starting to regress back to what he was before he was called back up. Tyrone Taylor is not giving you enough at the plate. Mauricio, you called him up. Not a good series for Ronnie Mauricio at all. I didn't like his series at all. And that's a problem. Jeff McNeil, not giving you enough. You're just not getting anything from the bottom of this order. Terens, I mean, the game he played, 0 for 4 as well. And then Jared Young. I mean, I got to be honest with you. I am tired of this Jared Young thing already. I really am. I don't know what they see in him. And now Vientos, I mean, you can't even count on him because he got hurt in that first game running out of the batter's box, a hamstring injury. Apparently, it's not as bad, but you weren't getting anything from him either. It was similar to what we saw at the beginning of the season with this lineup, though, where the top dogs are getting it done right now, and the top dogs are producing, plus Marte. I can't believe I'm saying that. But the bottom of the lineup, you got to get more. You got to get more. And you're just not. You saw them link Jeff Passan linking them to Cedric Mullins. There was a report that I think from Heyman saying that they might be in on Duran. They need someone else to play center field. I like Taylor for the defense, but he's a fourth outfielder. You need to get some sort of infielder too, because as much as Beatty was hitting when he got called back up, it's starting to wear off, and you're not getting anything at all from the second base spot or the third base spot, who, depending, what's going on that certain day. You're not getting anything. So that's where changes are going to have to be made, where I'm looking at it the most, especially against a team that you might be facing in the playoffs, and you most likely are going to face in the playoffs if you're going on a deep run. Because the top guys had a good enough series. I mean, Lindor, in the games that he played, I thought he was good. I thought Juan Soto looked so much more comfortable at the plate, and even though he didn't get hits in some games, still drawing multiple walks in games. Alonso, I mean, the freaking power that he showed all series long. Wasted. Nimmo looking better. It's just the problem is that, I'm not, because this is the thing. I agree with Maxwell here. I'm not mad at a guy like Taylor for performing the way he is. It's just I'm more mad that you're not getting production from the bottom of the lineup. But, you can't have high expectations there. But when Tyrone Taylor has to bat 6 because you're not getting anything from the catching position, you're not getting anything from second base, you're not getting anything from third base, this is what you're stuck with. And then this team just defensively, more mistakes. Little league mistakes, that being. I mean, that mistake from Beatty, that can't happen. That's little league stuff that gets done there. Brandon Nimmo getting lost on multiple fly balls in this series. Can't happen. Or not even just fly balls, but There was that one that was hit a little bit towards the corner there, and he's not playing it off the bounce there. And he's lost out there in left field. And it's unfortunate to add to all this. Again, the pitching just not as sharp. And I know that you're facing a way better lineup, but a part of it definitely is the fact that these guys are fatigued. But at the same time, why is Brosabon going out there in game number 2 after throwing the amount of pitches that he did? Why is he out there instead of Budo? Get some fresh arms up here then at that point. I mean, uh, they might have to call Nunez back up sometime soon. But it's hard to blame the pitching when, you look at the series and 3 for 9 with runners in scoring position game 1. Not bad. 4 for 11. Better, sort of, but again, maybe a little bit more you need. And then 2 for 6 in game 3. But you won that game. And then 2 for 10 that last game is just completely unacceptable. So just the problem is that you're still seeing some of the same slop that we have seen all season long. And those type of plays cannot happen in October because this team, and they did make you pay, they're going to make you pay even more in October. So that's really where my anger comes in, that it's marginal, like it's small things that they need to just improve upon to really take that next level to be like a really great team. Like they're close, but when you're relying on the Jared Youngs of the world in the bottom of your line, I mean, I can't do this. I can't do that. So yeah, definitely just a frustrating way to split the series. Again, on paper, going into it, I wanted them to split. I would have been okay with a split. I said it going into it, but the context of it definitely just makes it very infuriating, especially when Paul Blackburn in game 1, which if I'm gonna give shout outs to anyone, Paul Blackburn's definitely someone that deserves a lot of praise for the way that he went out there and balled in his first start in a very long time. Shout out to him in that regard, mixing his pitch as well. And you guys know I've never been a Paul Blackburn guy, to be honest with you, but the way they mix his pitches, utilizing the curveball to get a good amount of whiffs, just really good stuff from Paul Blackburn. Thankfully, they utilized that start well. But, I mean, then you have the starts from Tyler McGill where he's putting his team behind the 8 ball early, which that can't happen. Griffin Canning at least going out there and balling. But David Peterson, it's like the problem is you got to ask this pitching staff to be perfect. Because he goes out there and throws 7 despite that one inning where he struggles. Turns in still a very good start. 13 whiffs on 45 swings. Wasted because this offense doesn't do enough. And then Reed Garrett, unfortunately, just having more blips than we've seen from him this season, just missing with his command. And, you do give credit to the Dodgers though, at the same time because they are a team. And we saw this last year in the playoffs. And that's where I do have a little bit of worries with the pen, is that those guys lay off of good pitches. Like Reed Garrett going out there and slightly missing his location at points. You credit the Dodgers. They're able to lay off of those pitches. That's what a World Series team does. And, that's really the problem, where the bottom of the Mets lineup is not capable of doing that and working competitive at bats. But the Dodgers lineup showed they were capable of that. I mean, the way Pa has played for them this series, major credit to him. Tommy Edman giving tough at bats. So that's where I'm sitting here. Like, the Mets definitely, David Stearns has his work cut out for him come the trade deadline in July, where he's got to find the guys to fill in the margins for the bottom of the lineup because I get that he said he trusts the prospects and everything, and they got some young guys, but these guys aren't showing me enough. They're not showing me enough at all. And then the platoon thing for center field because I know they expected Syria to be there. One of those guys can't be on the roster come the trade deadline. You got to get a more productive center fielder. So we'll see. I mean, again, there's a lot more. There's time for that. For now, just control what's in front of you and win games. They're sitting currently in first place still, but just those marginal adjustments that still have to be made that we've been talking about since April, which is what infuriates me. But let me see what else some of you guys are saying in the chat before I go on to talk about some more things. Nimmo needs to get better in the field. Honestly, I thought he's been fine defensively all year until this series. I thought this was just a one-off, and I hope it is. But if it continues, then I mean, yeah. Only the Mets could have easily been 7-0 against the Dodgers, find a way to lose 3 times, but at the end of the day, take a series. Win gladly from the Dodgers. Now they have to sweep tonight, continue to pull away from the Phillies and fix some more issues. I'm glad they're a competitive team at the end of the day. Listen, I don't disagree with any of that. I don't disagree with any of that. It just, like you said, the context of how they lost those 3 games is where my frustration comes in, especially because it's the same things that we have seen since April. Call up pitching prospects. Who though? I mean, and I don't think that they got to call up pitching prospects. I think maybe you got to call up some fresh arms for the bullpen. But I mean, I'm not. The rotation's been fine to me. To me, the rotation's been fine. It comes down to the bottom of the order not producing and a couple bullpen hiccups and defensive hiccups. I already read that one. Still trust Beatty over Vientos at third. But do you trust either of these guys come October? That's the bigger question. I know my answer, but and maybe, I think it's fair if you want to say we need to see a larger sample size in that regard. But I've seen enough from both to where I think you got to make an upgrade there in the infield somewhere, whether it's second or third. You can maybe get away with one of these guys playing. You can't get away with both in October. I'm sorry, but you can't. Go give me a Suarez or Bregman if those guys are available come the trade deadline. We give up almost anybody for Duran. I'm a little skeptical on that thing because Duran last year was so good defensively, but the problem was that just a flash in the pan, and was last season in general a flash in the pan. I wouldn't mind if they made the move for him, but I do have worries. It's definitely an upgrade over what they have, though. It is for sure an upgrade over what they have. Yeah, I was the same way. Just that was like a vintage Mets lost that one. A vintage Mets play. Mets do these brutal losses where they collapse. I'm happy. There have been a few blowouts, maybe 8-2 was their worst. I think a lot of teams would take that, but things need to click slightly more. That's what it comes down to. Like my frustration's not about them losing games because every team is going to lose games. I've said this time and time again where it's baseball. It's going to happen. You're not going to win 162, but I just want to see things click a little bit more to where I just want to see them show for a stretch of time a level of great baseball because there's a difference between good and great. They've shown good baseball. They've shown pretty good baseball, but I want to see a stretch where, and I think this is the opportunity to do it against the Rockies, the Nationals, the Rays, to show great baseball. I don't know, like, I can't explain it, and maybe it's just me, and you guys tell me if you agree or not, but there's this feeling where something just feels and again, I don't wanna sound like I'm complaining, and I don't wanna, upset the people that will say the record's good and everything because I get it. But is it just me or does something feel just slightly off? Slightly off. Outside of the runners in scoring position thing, like I can't put my finger on what else it is, but it's just like I don't know. I can't explain it. But again, they have the record they do, but I want to see these slight improvements. I don't know though about this because part of the reason you brought Stearns in is because he could apply what he did in Milwaukee, but expand more because of the payroll flexibility. But there's something to be said for sure about how, he's never put together the best offensive teams. But yeah, I mean, I get it. I get this point where I love Stearns too, but there is that side of it. I like every executive does have their one thing where it's just like at least the one thing I should say that's a con about them, and I can't disagree that that is the one con with David Stearns, which I will take all the great that he brings. I want to make that very clear that I am not saying I hate David Stearns in any way. I love the guy; he has saved my life, but it is definitely his one flaw where it's just like he does not put together the greatest offensive teams. I still think this fall, and we were talking about this last episode. I still think this falls on the fact that there's a marginal difference with the way that these players are being coached in AAA versus up here. I still think in my heart of hearts it's that because the pitching, you see these guys come up and be pretty solid on the pitching side. It's the hitting side though. And you still got to see them work through that more with Stearns to where I'm not ready to, make too many claims in that regard. This isn't true though, too, Cats. That's the thing. This isn't true. I mean, first of all, even if it was, I really don't care to be honest with you with what the Yankees are doing respectfully. But this isn't true. I mean, they're getting contributions from a lot of guys in their lineup right now. I mean, Trent Grisham's having a career year right now. They're getting good contributions from Ben Rice, but I don't want to go on a Yankee tangent here. I don't. But they're getting some good contributions up and down their lineup right now. So I don't know if I agree with that one, to be honest with you. Sorry, pitching is the bright spot. Don't know if they could sustain their success. I think the pitching could sustain the success. There might be marginal drop offs, but that's where the offense has to pick things up. I'm not too worried until there's a reason to be concerned because, like I said, Paul Blackburn did not look good in his rehab starts. So I'm not that worried in that regard just yet. You could say this, I mean, but to me, this is the problem here, right? And this is where I've been going back and forth in my head with how much you go all in at the deadline. And I was talking about this in my group chat, and former co-host here, which I got to get him back on the show, but Nico was saying in the group chat, you really do have to strike while the iron's hot here. And you can't wait around on Vientos to turn things around. You can't wait around on Beatty to take a step forward. Mauricio, like you can't rely on these guys because Pete Alonso, this might be his last year as a Met. And he's playing the best baseball we've seen since 2019. Lindor's putting up a again, I know the underlying stuff does show a little bit of concerns maybe in that regard with Lindor, but it's improving and he's still having a good enough year. Juan Soto's going to turn things around. Brandon Nimmo's starting to turn the corner. To me, you can't waste this opportunity. I agree that out of the young guys, I would probably say Vientos has the most potential because he's shown it. But I'm also sitting here like I don't know if you could wait around on that. If there's an opportunity to get better and you move Vientos, you got to consider that. I don't know. I don't know if it's really this as much as it's just I don't know. I can't explain it because Soto's starting to look more comfortable. Gotta lock in, like I said, and next few series win convincingly, even against Atlanta, no excuses. Yeah, I mean you got to beat the division teams, especially. Got to beat those teams. Those are the biggest games. And I agree, the constant lineup changes aren't helping either. But Mendoza's also not getting a reason to stick with a consistent lineup, unfortunately. But this, I mean, this part's accurate at the same time too. That Mendoza does take guys out after they have a good day, but with some of these guys, it's like they're not giving Mendoza a reason to consistently hit in one spot of the lineup. I think the Nimmo thing though is ridiculous. I think he's got to hit second no matter what. I don't care that Clayton Kershaw throws with his left hand. Get Nimmo in the 2-hole. Once Soto truly breaks out, I think we're off to the races. I bet our runners in scoring position turns around with him breaking out too. Maybe, but you still need more from the bottom of the lineup too. It's got to be because last year, I mean, think about how much they were randomly getting contributions from the bottom of the lineup at points because Acuna comes up, gives surprisingly good production. Tyrone Taylor even had a really good stretch of baseball, giving you big production. Iglesias, we know about. Like, they need to find that from last year. Do I think they have the bankroll after Soto to keep Pete? I mean, they have the money. It's just I don't know if they're going to do it or not and how much Pete's going to want. That's what it boils down to. But anyway, I'm going to preview the series against the Rockies coming up before we close out the show here. But in terms of the series preview, a 3-game set back to that. Game 1 is going to be a familiar pitching matchup for the first 2 games, actually, as Antonio Senzatella is going against Kodai Senga. Senzatella with a 1-10 record, a 7.14 ERA, a 1.98 WHIP. So please light them up. Please light them up. And then Carson Palmquist versus Clay Holmes. Please take advantage of Carson Palmquist this time because they did not turn in a good offensive performance in that last series against the Rockies. So please take advantage of that more Coors Field. And then Clay Holmes on the mound, who has been brilliant, 6-3 on the year, 3.07 ERA, 1.16 WHIP, making a case even for the All-Star game potentially. So yeah, another. I mean, all these pitching matchups are in your favor. Then they face the Rockies' best starting pitcher, who does not even have great numbers right now, in German Marquez, who is 2-7 on the year with a 6.98 ERA, a 1.69 WHIP, going against Tyler McGill, which I very interested to see how that goes at Coors Field. He is 4-4 on the year with a 3.77 ERA, a 1.31 WHIP. I'm calling a sweep, and you better sweep because this is a team that you need to take advantage of. I want to see the offense show me those improvements I've been talking about all episode. I want to see the defensive improvements as well, which I know it's not easy to play defense in that ballpark, but I want to see improvements against a piss poor Rockies club that is desperate for anything. I mean, they just swept the Marlins, so at least you don't have to worry about breaking their streak of series losses, but anything other than a sweep is unacceptable. I don't want to hear any excuses if they win 2 out of 3. None of that. No excuses. Go in there and sweep this team. You have to. You should have last time. You have to now. So, no excuses at all. The offense has to wake the hell up. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. And will they? I don't know. I can't sit here and say for certain they will or won't. But either way, I'm going to wrap things up here. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you guys are new to the channel, especially if you're Met fans. Turn on your notifications so you know when we upload or go live here on Met Central. And I'll see you guys in the next one.